everybody. Chris Gleason with the Department of Public Instruction, and I'm here today with Dannielle Arneson, who is our media arts educator who wrote these magnificent lesson plans. Dannielle, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you. How are you today?
Fabulous. Thanks for being here. See, can you just let the folks know who you are, where you teach, how long you've been there, those kind of things?
Sure. I'm Dannielle Arneson, and I currently teach art in the Sheboygan Area School District at North High School and Change Academy. I'm starting my fourth year there, but this is my going to start my 24th year in education. Before that, I was in the Howards Grove School District. So 24 years in goes fast. But I have taught art all those years, every age level from kindergarten through seniors and now on to adults and into the public workshops too as well. So I love all ages.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, many people know of your work, and we're grateful to have you do this for us. And speaking of that, let's talk about it. Your lesson plans. You created some media arts lesson plans. Can you give us an overview, a little bit about what you created?
Sure. Well, it took a while to process the poem that we were given and the big theme ideas. And actually went through a lot of different avenues as artists do, different pathways until I settled on a project that I think is very, very engaging for all levels, which is stop motion animation. And I think it's great because it can be pared down from kindergarten all the way through high school, depending upon the parameters. So essentially, we created a project, or I created a project where the students would do a stop motion animation and work with groups to kind of reflect on what connection means to them. And through their visual storytelling in the stop motion, they also get to work and connect with each other because they have to collaborate on what feels like an easy project, but when you do it in reality, it takes a long time and it's quite the process. So I think it's a great learning um, project all around for all ages.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. What I was curious about is when you sent it in, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what she does with like kindergarten kids. Like, how are you going to do stop motion? But it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's really well done. I never even, I don't necessarily watch Sesame Street, but it was really cool to see how they incorporated that into this. And folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, you're just going to have to go look. But can you explain a little bit how you made that differentiated for those younger students?
Sure. Well, I tapped into my couple of years in elementary school, and I also tapped into some elementary art teachers, and I was like, can they do stop motion animation? They can. But how do you do that as a whole class? If you're actually a teacher with, 20, 30 kids in a room, how do you do that? So shout out to OK Go and their stop motion animation and primary colors. But what I thought about doing is incorporating movement, which all kindergartners love to do, and then incorporating art vocabulary, primary colors, which is necessary for them to learn at a young age. And then, you can read the lesson plan, but basically the teacher can be the guide and play a game of red light, green light, which we all love to do as kids, right? And videotape that and create a stop motion in collaboration with the students and have their help and move around the room. So I don't know. I'd be excited to see some results if other people try this. I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, all these plans, I can just see how excited the students would be to, and you laid it out so beautifully, like to envision what they're, the concept, and then they have to do the planning and everything with this as well. Have you seen the results of this, lesson plan in your own work with students?
Not this particular one, but I do remember my fond days of teaching kindergarten. And again, shout out to all those kindergarten teachers. They have some of the toughest jobs out there. But I do remember playing fun games like that where they incorporate movement into their learning, especially when it comes to primary colors. And this particular video, the resource that I provided, was very engaging for many of them, and we reverted to it often. So I know it's a
I
hit.
watched the whole thing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm watching this whole thing because I was just curious. It was great. So during this process, was there anything that surprised you a little bit when you were writing all these lesson plans?
I think I was trying to just be mindful of, the first word was like the connection and communication, and how do we show connection, which is a big word. And then having the poetry and listening to his talk really helped me think this through. And I actually had to call up some of my English teacher friends and be like, how do you interpret this poem? And how can we make this work with students of all age levels? And really what resonated with me and what was surprising is thinking about visualizing voice and how can we do that, like we talk and we have a voice, but what if you don't have a voice? And then how in the visual arts and in the media arts world, how do we visually show somebody's voice without actually speaking? And so that's where the stop motion animation came through. Because you could add voiceovers, of course, you could add people's voices, but that's a whole nother layer. So how do we visually communicate? And you can spend a week's worth of time and have a 2-second clip, and how can we be impactful and mindful in what we're communicating in just a short amount of time?
Yeah, and I love that you don't need fancy equipment. You could do this with tablets and like you showed in some of your examples too, and you provided so many great examples too. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, those are years and years of doing this with students, and from low tech. I first started this doing stop motion with students before we had any of these fancy apps that just collected it all, and literally we were taking pictures and uploading them onto individual slides, PowerPoint, and then running it through in the transitions, or even clicking it through individually just to show them how it works. And you can go through flip books too, the drawing out too, but now, yeah, it's so much easier. Grab your phone, grab your tablet, a free app, and start videoing it.
There you
You
go.
know.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. So, you talked about the poet and the poem and so on. How has the poem resonated with you personally?
Yeah. Well, at first of it, I felt it was like sad and lonely, and then because they were reflecting on voices that they couldn't hear, or how things you're feeling alone, and then at the end all of a sudden there's other people out there, and there's other connections, and there's other voices that you bring together. I think that that's such a powerful and I did that too. As I was going through this process, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm alone writing this lesson plan. But then I started to reach out. I talked to my kindergarten art teacher friends, I talked to my English teacher friends, I talked to, like, I asked my own teenage sons, like, hey, do this project for me. What would you do if I told you you had to, like, make a stop motion and make connection a part of it? And so I started to connect and use my voice to do this project, this lesson for you. But then I envisioned students doing it the same with their groups, getting together and collaborating, which makes the world a better place, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. And speaking of making it a better place, how is focusing on this concept of connection important for learners today?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we're glued to tablets, and as hard as, when you're teaching media arts to say, get away from the screen when we need the screen. And honestly, like, sometimes using their phone is the best tool in this situation. If they had that app on their phone, this would be the best tool for them to use. But how do we use that correctly? And then how do we make sure that we're not just focused on this? So this really incorporates tactile learning with your hands on, and then learning. I've done it in the past with groups of 3 or 4, and I think that's the best because you realize we have to all be a part of it. We all have to have a job. We have to do the character development, the storyboarding. You have to write out a script, come up with a background, who's going to bring the props, who's going to make them, how are we going to set this up. There's so many different pieces in place. So it really teaches collaboration. And again, if the end results are like 2 seconds long, it gives the kids perspective to see, wow, this isn't just magic that shows up on your screen. There's a lot of production and a lot of things in the background that have to happen. So it's a great learning tool, I think.
Yeah, super valuable. Well, thank you. We appreciate connecting with you and doing this work. We're really grateful. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much.